Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt, once again reporting for the Sin Bin, and we have somewhat of unexpected news. I personally did not see this coming, but it appears that goalie Roberto Luongo, who is playing for the Florida Panthers, is finally calling it in and calling it a career. And I don't know about you guys, but this is sort of a shock for me. When we're thinking about players who might retire this season, we're thinking maybe of, Zdeno Chara making it all the way to the final and, obviously not winning. I thought maybe he's going to hang the skates now, especially with all of his injuries. I've been thinking of players like Joe Thornton. Again, he's really, really old. They're all in their 40s, these past players I've been naming. At least I think they are. And so it's kind of a shock for me that it's Roberto Luongo who comes out of the blue and he decides to retire. And it appears that even though he wanted to continue playing, the injuries finally caught up with him. Let's go through USA Today's article here. They say that Roberto Luongo wanted to keep playing and keep chasing the elusive Stanley Cup, largely because he believes the Florida Panthers are finally in a position to be a playoff contender. Now, he's playing for the Panthers. Obviously, he's going to have really good things to say about it. It's not like he's going to come out to the media and say, well, I play on a team that's shit. No, he's going to be complimentary. Do I personally think the Florida Panthers are a team to be a playoff contender? I mean, I think so. I think it's more likely they're on the outside of the playoffs than on the inside because, let's face it, their defense isn't all that good. Aaron Ekblad is good, I guess. And their offense, Barkov is an elite player, one of the best centermen in the game. I think that Huberdeau is very, very underrated. And I think that there's good players that can insulate them, such as, Dadonov and Hoffman. But otherwise, I think there's a kind of a drop in the quality of players other than the ones I just named. And I don't personally think they're going to make the playoffs, but I'm getting ahead of myself and I'm going off topic. Let's stick to Luongo here. So it appears that his body wanted otherwise. He's been dealing with issues for a long time. And Luongo ultimately listened. The most popular player in Panthers history announced his retirement Wednesday, doing so via Twitter in two different voices, one to support each side of his personality. The first was in his usual self-deprecating fashion, saying he decided to take my talents to South Beach retirement home. So, Florida obviously known for their retirement homes, and it appears that Luongo is going to one. I hope they have hair gel because he's going to need it. The other was a heartfelt open letter to the fans where he revealed that he cried when he told his children he was done. And Luongo goes on to say, "This was one of the toughest decisions I've faced in my life, and it took me a long time to make it. After thinking about it a lot over the past 2 months and listening to my body, I made up my mind. It just feels like the right time for me to step away for the game. I love the game so much, but the commitment I required to prepare to keep my body ready was becoming overwhelming." And it's so sad to see these players who love the game, who love to play, and just due to injury, they're forced to retire. We saw earlier this week, I didn't make a video about it, but Ryan Callahan is in a similar situation. I don't know if he officially called it a retirement, but due to his degenerative back disease, it doesn't look like he's coming back. And that's sad when the player wants it, the brain wants it, the will wants it, but the body can't handle it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Luongo. And he was drafted, let's go to his HockeyDB page. He was drafted, believe it or not, by the Islanders and a 4th overall pick. Nowadays, it's a foreign thing to see goalies drafted this high. I mean, Spencer Knight was drafted 13th by these Panthers, and that was sort of out of the blue. That was sort of a high pick. I mean, 4th overall, forget about it. And he would barely play with the Islanders. He played 24 games. He got 7 wins and 14 losses. I mean, not the best start to the career. Let's not hide it here. But he got sent down to the AHL a few games, and then he got traded to the Florida Panthers. So we know him nowadays as a Florida Panthers, but he wasn't always playing for Florida. There was a stint where he went to Vancouver, which is where I know him for the most. He was from 2006 to 2014, he was a Vancouver Canuck, and he was definitely one of my favorite goalies. Luongo, and let me take Luongo out of this. Let me just talk about the Vancouver Canucks. They're kind of a polarizing team. You either love them or you hate them. I know a lot of people don't like the Vancouver Canucks, and maybe it's just in my surrounding, in my circle of friends, but I know a lot of them that just can't stand the Canucks and their fans and etc. I like the Canucks, but in terms of Luongo, I can't find anyone who doesn't like Luongo. He's just such a good goalie. He's a competitor. And when I was young, let me say a story. McDonald's in Canada, they had these goalie sticks that they would give out with every Happy Meal. And the goalie stick that I wanted the most, they come in these little sort of containers. The one that I always wanted the most was Luongo. And when I would play hockey and I started off, I would play in goals, I would always pretend to be Luongo. He's definitely one of my favorite players and one of my favorite goalies. And as this article kind of alludes to, he's really, really funny when it comes to Twitter and all of that. I don't really go on Twitter much, but he would definitely be someone I would follow. So, and speaking of which, it's Strumbone at Strumbone1. Luongo never hoisted the Stanley Cup, which is really disappointing in my opinion, because he came oh so close in 2011. I mean, there's a lot of greats on that 2011 Vancouver Canucks team who are going to go down for never have won the cup. There's Luongo, who we're talking about. There's Daniel Sedin and there's Henrik Sedin. It's just sad. I really wanted them to win in 2011, take it away from the Boston Bruins. But, sorry, my phone is vibrating. But that is not what fate had in store for Luongo and the Sedins. So his 489 career victories are third in NHL history, behind only Martin Brodeur and Patrick Roy. Now, that is good company to be with. Martin Brodeur and Patrick Roy, that is very, very good company. And 489 career victories, that's not something to spit at here. That is an accomplishment. And when it comes to retiring jerseys, I wouldn't be surprised to see, I don't know if it would be the Panthers or the Vancouver Canucks, that's a good discussion, but I really wouldn't be surprised to see either one retire his jersey. Probably as a Canuck, because that's really where he made his markings. And another thing I really know Luongo for is he was awarded the captaincy. Something that's really rare in the NHL is seeing the goalie being a captain. I can count them on my fingers, the amount of goalies who have been captain. And in my opinion, that's not really a good idea, because goalies don't play every game. They play, between 40 and 60 games. So that 20-game span where the goalie isn't playing, because goalies, it's too demanding to play all 82 games. You're basically taking your captain out of the game. You're taking him off the ice. Who's going to go talk to the referees? That's why you don't see it anymore, goalies being awarded the captaincy. But he was awarded the captaincy, which shows you not only is he a really good player, but he's also a good leader. He's good behind the scenes in the locker room. It could be argued that no one was better for longer than Luongo was. Among the 7 goaltenders to appear in the last 900 game, Luongo's .919 save percentage is the best. And that's a really good point. The reason why I read these articles is because they have good points that I can go off of. And they say no one was better for longer than Luongo was. Let me just give you a counter argument here, a counter example. Jose Theodore played with the Montreal Canadiens in the early 2000s, and he played great. And during his prime, he even won the Hart Trophy. He was awarded the Hart Trophy for the league MVP. Now, he didn't go on to have the best career. There was kind of a quick drop-off. He was able to sustain a high level of play for a while, but once he got traded to Colorado, there was a drop-off, and I think he was quickly after traded to the Washington Capitals. Don't quote me on that, but I think he was traded to the Capitals. From the moment I was fortunate enough to share a locker room with him, Roberto was exemplified leadership for me, says Panthers forward Vincent Trocheck. There isn't a classier, more professional guy in this league. He's a great hockey player and somehow even a better person. Yeah, that's true. He's a very, very classy guy. There's not really any controversy surrounding him, whether it be on the ice or off the ice. It seems like everyone liked him and everyone respected him. Like I said, people would hate the Vancouver Canucks, but it's hard to hate Luongo. He's such a good guy. Now, he leaves as a 5-time All-Star, and the Montreal native helped Canada win Olympic gold in 2010 and 2014. So although he never won the Stanley Cup, that's something he can at least put in his repertoire. He's won Olympic gold twice. And to be on Canada's squad, we know that Canada's a really, really deep team. So in order to make it on that squad, you have to be a really good goalie. So congratulations to him for that. Also in his collection are 2 World Championship gold medals, along with another one from the 2004 World Cup of Hockey. So there we got it, Roberto Luongo. And the article goes on. I'd let you guys read it. I can put the link in the description. But let's see what Sportsnet has to say about the retirement. So here is Sportsnet talking about Roberto Luongo's retirement.
Chris Johnson. Chris, yes, Vancouver has a young team. Yes, they have a lot of cap space, but I imagine $3+ million on their books for the next 3 years isn't what they were looking forward to.
Well, preferably not. I mean, if you were in the Canucks' shoes, you were hoping Roberto...
And I'm going to pause it right there because we have to talk about the implications of Luongo actually retiring. Who's going to fill the hole in nets? So this guy here, the foreign-looking guy on the left, he says that $3 million at the cap space is relieved. That's nothing to shy away from because Luongo is gone. There's a hole in net. They're going to have to fill it somehow. And we know that there's a big goalie on free agency, Bobrovsky. And will the Panthers want to give him a chance? Will the Panthers want to sign him with some of the money that's being relieved in their cap space? We're going to wait and see on Free Agent Frenzy, which is coming up on July 1st.
Roberto Luongo played out those final 3 years of his contract just because every dollar counts in a cap system. And, it's not as bad as it looks on paper. The charge itself is a little bit over $300,000, but they were also already paying $800,000 each of those years, which gets taken off the books. So to simplify it, it's essentially $2.2 million each of those 3 seasons that they wouldn't have been paying. That's basically equivalent to a player, a decent enough player. And that's something that the Canucks knew when they traded Roberto back to Florida years ago they might face. And they're the first team in the league ever actually to get nailed with this.
So my apologies. It seems like I'd have to do a little bit more research on this. But from what they're talking about, it seems like even the Vancouver Canucks are going to experience cap relief. And as this guy, Chris Johnson, says, that $2 million, that's a really good player that they can get.
Now for Florida, they had big plans and have big plans this offseason as well, at least if you believe reports. Sergei Bobrovsky, Artemi Panarin reportedly, taking meetings there with desires to sign there, or Florida at least with desires to sign them. They get hit with a cap hit of over $1 million, which is probably a little better than if Roberto Luongo went on the long-term IR, isn't it?
Yes, the Panthers have been working with Roberto here as he was trying to decide what to do with his future, but they were encouraging him to retire if there was any decision to be made with him not playing. He probably could have went on long-term injured reserve because he's been dealing with a hip injury, pretty serious one, that was requiring him to work several hours a day off ice just so he could get on ice. But in this case, it actually benefits Florida to essentially open up about $3.5 million per season in extra cap space. So as we look to July 1st for this year, they have about $24 million to play with, and they want to play with it all. I mean, Dale Talon has been very clear that he hopes to spend to the cap next season. It'll probably cost him $11 million or even more if he gets Artemi Panarin, maybe $10 million, maybe a little less for Sergei Bobrovsky. But they also want to get some defensemen in free agency. So this does pave the way, I think, for Florida to be even more active. And if they aren't active, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Expect Florida to be active here. Whether it be Artemi Panarin, whether it be Sergei Bobrovsky, they don't have space to sign both of them. It's going to be either or. Do they want to go with the goalie? Do they want to go with the forward? In my opinion, I think it's more intelligent to go for the forward, Artemi Panarin, because no disrespect to Bobrovsky, but he's going to want a long-term contract, and we're speaking here 5 to 8 years potentially. They just drafted a stud goalie who's going to be ready in 2, max 3 years. Carter Hart is a very young player. What is he, 19 or 20? And he's played in the league last year. So I don't think Spencer Knight is too far away. Are you going to sign Bobrovsky to an 8-year deal and then just have Spencer Knight, on the back burner? I don't think that really makes sense. I think it makes more sense to hire Artemi Panarin, sign him, and then maybe acquire not an elite goalie, just someone who can fill a spot for 2 years, maybe get him through a trade.
Before we talk about Luongo's legacy, I just want to ask you your thoughts on the recapture penalty in general. I know there's a lot of talk this year, especially with the young RFAs, of big long-term deals, and they don't have the same implications as maybe the.
So this is getting a little off topic.
Like
Let's stick it to the Luongo talk.
They essentially put teams not.
In terms of Luongo itself, he hasn't won a Vezina, didn't win the Stanley Cup, was nominated for a Hart, ironically, despite not winning it or the Vezina that year. Where does he stand legacy-wise to you in terms of goalies to play this game?
Well, we just saw the new Hall of Fame class announced on Tuesday, and I would expect 3 years from now, when Roberto Luongo becomes eligible, that he's someone, in my eyes, that's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I see him as the best goalie of this generation.
So let me just pause it here because I want to discuss a little about that. I didn't know, first of all, he's never won a Vezina. That's sort of surprising for me. You know, you're third all-time in wins behind Brodeur and Patrick Roy, and you've never won a Vezina. That's really surprising for me. And there's some players that they take it seriously, you know, for sure. There's some players they just don't care about awards. They could be nominated. I'm assuming it's like Oscars, where who's that actor who just doesn't care about Oscars? He's playing the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix. He just doesn't care about awards, and I really hope, and he does seem to be the type, but I'm just assuming off of his personality, he doesn't seem the type to get too beaten up over the fact that he's never won a Vezina. Now, do I think that he should be part of the Hall of Fame? You know, I really like Luongo. This video has been nothing but complimentary for Luongo, but the Hall of Fame is a really exclusive club. I don't think we need to be reaching for players. And, you know, to be honest, he's never won a cup. I think that hurts him a lot. It's not impossible for players to get nominated even though they've never won a cup. We saw Eric Lindros was one, but he's kind of an exception here. I think that Luongo is a reach for the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to get beaten up if he does get nominated. I really like him, but it's somewhat of a reach.
Or at least in the conversation with Henrik Lundqvist. And even though that career doesn't include a Stanley Cup, got awfully close in 2011 in Game 7 with the Vancouver Canucks. But when you look at someone who's played 1,000 games in goal, one of only 3 guys to do that, the best goaltender in 2 franchises history across this league, and someone who's top 10 all-time in save percentage, you know, I think that he's got a very strong case for Hall of Fame consideration and really will go down as one of the best of the 90s and 2000s.
Alright, so video's almost over. I hope you guys liked this video, and I hope you guys subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers before October, or maybe by the end of October, and I'm counting on you guys to make it. So if you like this video, please make sure to drop a like, subscribe to my channel, and you could expect more videos to come out. I don't want to make any promises. I'm going to try to do something for NHL free agency, maybe having a listening party similarly to what I did to the draft. Keep in mind, I don't have a really good computer. It's old as shit, so the stream quality is not going to be really, really good. But with that being said, I appreciate you made it this far to the video if you did. I appreciate you took the time to listen to this. I wish a really, really happy retirement to Roberto Luongo. And in the name, to finish off, in the words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice, kids.